Alright. People are talking about volleyball. Oh, the cat wants out. Cat wants out. Alright. We might be doing the last 3 chapters of Martian today. Let's go. Chapter 24. The department heads stared at the satellite image on the projection screen. Sheesh, Mitch said. What the hell happened? The rover's on its side, Mindy said, pointing to the screen. The trailer's upside down. Those rectangles scattered around are solar cells. Venkat put a hand on his chin. Do we not have any information on the state of the rover pressure vessel? Nothing obvious, Mindy said. Any signs of Watney doing something after the accident? An EVA, maybe? No EVA, Mindy said. The weather's clear. If he'd come out, there'd be visible footsteps. Is this the entire crash site? Bruce Ing asked. I think so, Mindy said. Up towards the top of the photo, which is north, there are ordinary wheel tracks, right here. She pointed to a large disturbance in the soil. Right here is where I think things went wrong. Judging by where that ditch is, I'd say the rover rolled and slid from there. You can see the trench it left behind. The trailer flipped forwards onto its roof. I'm not saying everything's okay, Bruce said, but I don't think it's as bad as it looks. Go on, Venkat said. The rover's designed to handle a roll, Bruce explained, and if there had been pressure loss, there'd be a starburst pattern in the sand. I don't see anything like that. Watney may still be hurt inside, Mitch said. He could have banged his head or broken an arm or something. Sure, Bruce said. I'm just saying the rover is probably okay. When was this taken? Mindy checked her watch. We got it 17 minutes ago. We'll get another pic in 9 minutes when MGS-4's orbit brings it into view. First thing he'll do is an EVA to assess damage, Venkat said. Mindy, keep us posted on any changes. Log entry Sol 498. Yeah. Things didn't go well on the descent into Schiaparelli Basin. To give you some indication of how unwell they went, I'm reaching up to the computer to type this, because it's still mounted near the control panel and the rover is on its side. I got bounced around a lot, but I'm a well-honed machine in times of crisis. As soon as the rover toppled, I curled into a ball and cowered. That's the kind of action hero I am. It worked, too, because I'm not hurt. The pressure vessel is intact, so that's a plus. The valves that lead to the trailer hoses are shut. Probably means the hose is disconnected, and that means the trailer junction snapped. Wonderful. Looking around the interior here, I don't think anything is broken. The water tank stayed sealed. There aren't any visible leaks in the air tank. The bedroom came unfolded and it's all over the place, but it's just canvas, so it can't have gotten too hurt. The driving controls are okay, and the nav computer is telling me the rover is in an unacceptably dangerous tilt. Thanks, nav. So I roll. If that's not the end of the world, I'm alive and the rover's fine. I'm more worried about the solar cells I probably rolled over. And also, since the trailer detached, there's a good chance it's mangled too. The balloon roof it has isn't exactly durable. If it popped, the stuff inside will have been flung out in all directions and I'll have to go find it. That's my critical life support. Speaking of life support, the rover switched over to the local tanks when the valves shut. I've got 20 liters of oxygen, enough to keep me breathing for 40 days, but without the regulator, which is in the trailer, I'm back to chemical CO2 absorption. I have 312 hours of filters left, plus I have another 171 hours of EVA CO2 filters as well. All told, that gives me 483 hours, which is close to 20 sols, so I have time to get things working again. I'm really close to the MAV now, about 220 kilometers, and I'm not gonna let something like this stop me from getting there. And I don't need everything to work at top form anymore. I just need the rover to work for 220 more kilometers and the life support to work for 51 more sols. That's it. Time to suit up and look for the trailer. Log entry Sol 498-2. I had an EVA and things aren't too bad. Mind you, they're not good. I trashed 3 solar cells. They're under the rover and badly damaged. They might still be able to eke out a few watts, but I'm not holding out too much hope. Luckily, I did come into this with 1 extra solar cell. I needed 28 for my daily operations and I brought 29. I tried pushing the rover over, but I wasn't strong enough. I'll need to rig something to get a leverage advantage. Other than being on its side, I don't see any real problems. Well, that's not true. The tow hook is ruined beyond repair. Half of it ripped clean off. Fortunately, the trailer also has a tow hook, so I have a spare. The trailer is in a precarious situation. It's upside down and sitting on the inflated roof. I'm not sure which god smiled down on me and kept that balloon from popping, but I'm grateful. My first priority will be righting it. The longer it puts weight on that balloon, the larger the chances it'll pop. While I was out, I collected the 26 solar cells that aren't under the rover and set them up to recharge my batteries. May as well, right? So right now, I have a few things to tackle. First, I need to right the trailer, or at least get the weight off the balloon. Next, I need to right the rover. Finally, I need to replace the rover's tow hook with the one on the trailer. Also, I should spell out a message for NASA. They're probably worried. And then there's a break. Mindy read the Morse code aloud. Rolled, fixing now. What? That's it? Venkat said over the phone. That's all he said, she reported, cradling the phone as she typed out an email to the list of interested parties. Just 3 words? Nothing about his physical health, his equipment, his supplies? You got me, she said. He left a detailed status report. I just decided to lie for no reason. Funny, Venkat said. Be a smart aleck to a guy 7 levels above you at your company. See how that works out. Oh no, Mindy said. I might lose my job as an interplanetary voyeur. I guess I'd have to use my master's degree for something else. I remember when you were shy. I'm space paparazzi now. The attitude comes with the job. Yeah, Venkat said. Just send the email. Already sent. Log entry Sol 499. I had a busy day today and I got a lot done. I started out pretty sore. I had to sleep on the wall of the rover. The bedroom won't work when the airlock is facing up. I did get to use the bedroom somewhat. I folded it up and used it as a bed. Anyway, suffice it to say, the wall of the rover wasn't made for sleeping on, but after a morning potato and Vicodin, I was feeling much better. At first, I figured my top priority was the trailer. Then I changed my mind. After taking a good look at it, I decided I'd never be able to ride it by myself. I'd need the rover. So today was focused on getting the rover righted. I brought all my tools along on this trip, figuring I'd need them for the MAV modifications, and along with them I brought cabling. Once I get set up at the MAV, my solar cells and batteries will be in a fixed position. I don't want to move the rover around every time I use a drill on the far side of the MAV, so I brought all the electrical cabling I could find. Good thing too, because it doubles as rope. I dug up my longest cable. It's the same one I used to power the drill that destroyed Pathfinder. I call it my lucky cable. I plugged one end of the battery and the other into the infamous sample drill, and walked off with the drill to find solid ground. Once I found it, I kept going until I'd gone as far as the electrical line would reach. I drove a 1 meter bit half a meter into a rock, unplugged the power line, and tied it around the base of the bit. Then I went back to the rover and tied off the cord to the roof rack bar on the high side. Now I had a long, taut line running perpendicular to the rover. I walked to the middle of the cord and pulled it laterally. The leverage advantage on the rover was huge. I only hoped it wouldn't break the drill bit before it tipped the rover. I backed away, pulling the line more and more. Something had to give, and it wasn't going to be me. I had Archimedes on my side. The rover finally tipped. It fell on its wheels, kicking up a huge cloud of soft dust. It was a silent affair. I was far enough away that the thin atmosphere had no hope of carrying the sound to me. I untied the power line, liberated the drill bit, and returned to the rover. I gave it a full systems check. That's a boring task, but I had to do it. Every system and subsystem was working correctly. JPL did a good job making those rovers. If I get back to Earth, I'm buying Bruce Ing a beer, though I guess I should buy all the JPL guys a beer. Beers for everyone if I get back to Earth. Anyway, with the rover back on its wheels, it was time to work on the trailer. Problem is, I ran out of daylight. Remember, I'm in a crater. I had gotten part of the way down the ramp when I rolled the rover, and the ramp is up against the western edge of the crater, so the sun sets really early from my point of view. I'm in the shadow of the western wall, and that royally sucks. Mars is not Earth. It doesn't have a thick atmosphere to bend light and carry particles that reflect light around corners. It's near a vacuum here. Once the sun is invisible, I'm in the dark. Phobos gives me some moonlight, but not enough to work with. Deimos is a low piece of crap that's no good to anyone. Like me. I hate to leave the trailer sitting on its balloon for another night, but there's not much else I can do. I figure it survived a whole day like that. It's probably stable for now. And hey, with the rover righted, I get to use the bedroom again. It's the simple things in life that matter. Log entry Soul 500. When I woke up this morning, the trailer hadn't popped yet, so that was a good start. The trailer was a bigger challenge than the rover. I only had to tip the rover. I'd need to completely flip the trailer. That requires a lot more force than yesterday's little leverage trick. The first step was to drive the rover to near the trailer. Then came the digging. Oh god, the digging. The trailer was pointed upside down, with its nose pointed downhill. I decided the best way to ride it was to take advantage of the slope and roll the trailer over its nose, basically to make a somersault to land on its wheels. I can make this happen by tying off the cable to the rear of the trailer and towing with the rover. But if I tried that without digging a hole first, the trailer would just slide along the ground. I needed it to tip up. I needed a hole for the nose to fall into. So I dug a hole 1 meter across, 3 meters wide, and 1 meter deep. It took me 4 miserable hours of hard labor, but I got it done. I hopped in the trailer and drove it downhill, dragging the trailer with me. As I hoped, the trailer nosed into the hole and tipped up. From there, it fell onto its wheels with a huge plume of dust. Then I sat there for a moment, dumbstruck that my plan had actually worked. And now I'm out of daylight again. I can't wait to get out of this shadow. All I need is 1 day of driving towards the MAV and I'll be away from the wall. But for now, it's another early night. I'll spend tonight without the trailer to manage my life support. It may be righted, but I have no idea if the stuff inside actually still works. The rover still has ample supplies for me. I'll spend the rest of the evening enjoying a potato. And by enjoying, I mean hating so much I want to kill people. Log entry Soul 501. I started the day with some nothing tea. Nothing tea is really easy to make. First get some hot water, then add nothing. I experimented with potato skin tea a few weeks ago. The less said about that, the better. I ventured into the trailer today. Not an easy task. It's pretty cramped in there. I had to leave my EVA suit in the airlock. The first thing I noticed was that it was really hot inside. It took me a few minutes to work out why. The atmospheric regulator was still in perfect working order, but it had nothing to do. Without being connected to the rover, it no longer had my CO2 production to deal with. The atmosphere in the trailer was perfect. Why change anything? With no regulation necessary, the air was not being pumped out to the AREC for free separation, and thus it wasn't coming back in as a liquid in need of heating. But remember, the RTG gives off heat all the time. You can't stop it, so the heat just built up. Eventually, things reached a balance point where the heat led through the hole as fast as the RTG could add it. If you're curious, that balance point was a sweltering 41 degrees Celsius. I did a full diagnostic on the regulator and the oxygenator, and I'm happy to report both are working perfectly. The RTG's water tank was empty, which is no surprise. It has an open top, not intended to be turned upside down. The floor of the trailer has a lot of puddled water that took me quite a while to sop up with my jumpsuit. I topped the tank off with some more water from a sealed container I'd stored in the trailer earlier. Remember, I need that water to have something for the returning air to bubble through. That's my heating system. With all things considered, it was good news. The critical components are working fine and both vehicles are back on their wheels. The hoses that connected the rover and trailer were designed well and released without breaking. I simply snapped them back into place and the vehicles were sharing life support again. The one remaining thing to fix was the tow hook. It was absolutely ruined. It took the full force of the crash, but as I suspected, The trailer's tow hook was unscathed, so I transferred it to the rover and reconnected the two vehicles for travel. All told, that little fender bender cost me 4 souls, but now I'm back in action. Sort of. What if I run into another powder pit? I got lucky this time. Next time I might not get off so easy. I need a way to know if the ground in front of me is safe, at least for the duration of my time on the ramp. Once I'm in the Schiaparelli Basin proper, I can count on the normal sandy terrain I'm used to. If I could have anything, it would be a radio to ask NASA the safe path down the ramp. Well, if I could have anything, it would be for the green-skinned yet beautiful Queen of Mars to rescue me, so she can learn more about this Earth thing called lovemaking. What? It's been a long time since I've seen a woman, just saying. Anyways, to ensure I don't crash again, what? Jesus, man. Anyways, I'll drive slower, like a crawl. That should give me enough time to react if one wheel starts to sink. Also, the lesser speed will give me more torque, making it less likely I'll lose traction. Up till now, I've been driving 25 kilometers per hour. I'm going to cut that down to 5 kilometers per hour. I'm still towards the top of the ramp, but the whole thing is only 45 kilometers. I can take my time and get safely to the bottom in about 8 hours. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm already out of daylight again today. That's another bonus. Once I clear the ramp, I can start beelining towards the MAV, which won't take me away from the critter wall. I'll be back to enjoying the entire day's sunlight instead of just half of it. If I get back to Earth, I'll be famous, right? A fearless astronaut who beat all the odds, right? I bet women like that. More motivation to stay alive. And then there's a break. So, it looks like he fixed everything, Mindy explained, and his message today was all better now. So I guess he's got everything working. She surveyed the smiling faces in the meeting room. Awesome, Mitch said. Great news, Bruce's voice came in through the speakerphone. Venkat leaned forward to the phone. How are the MAV modification plans coming, Bruce? Is JPL going to have the procedure soon? We're working around the clock on it, Bruce said. We're past most of the big hurdles. Working out the details now. Good, Venkat said. Any surprises I should know about? Bruce said. Yeah, a few. This might not be the best venue for it. I'll be back in Houston with the procedure in a day or two. We can go through it then. Ominous, Venkat said. But okay, we'll pick it up later. Can I spread the word, Venkat asked? Can I spread the word? Annie asked. It'd be nice to see something other than the rover crash site on the news tonight. Definitely, Venkat said. It'll be nice to have some good news for a change. Mindy, how long until he gets to the MAV? At his usual rate of 90 kilometers per soul, Mindy said. He should get there on Soul 504. 505 if he takes his time. He always drives in the early morning, finishing around noon. She checked an application on her laptop. Noon on 504 will be 11:41 a.m. this Wednesday here in Houston. Noon on Soul 505 will be 12:21 p.m. on Thursday. Mitch, who's handling Ares 4 MAV communications? The Ares 3 mission control team, Mitch replied. It will be in control room 2. I assume you'll be there? Bet your ass I'll be there. So will I. Log entry Soul 502. Every Thanksgiving, my family used to drive from Chicago to Sandusky, an 8-hour drive. It's where Mom's sister lived. Dad always drove, and he was the slowest, most cautious driver who ever took the wheel. Seriously, he drove like he was taking a driver's test. Never exceeded the speed limit, always had his hands at 10 and 2, adjusted mirrors before each outing, you name it. It was infuriating. We'd be on the freeway, cars blowing by left and right. Some of them would blare their horns because, honestly, driving the speed limit makes you a road hazard. I wanted to get out and push. I felt that way all day today. 5 kilometers per hour is literally a walking pace, and I drove that speed for 8 hours. But the slow speed ensured that I wouldn't fall into any more powder pits along the way, and of course I didn't encounter any. I could have driven full speed and had no problems, but better safe than sorry. The good news is I'm off the ramp. I camped out as soon as the terrain flattened out. I've already overdone my driving time for the day. I could go further. I still have 15% battery power or so, but I want to get as much daylight on my solar cells as I can. I'm in the Schiaparelli Basin at last, far from the crater wall too. I got a full day of sunlight every day from now on. I decided it was time for a very special occasion. I ate the meal pack labeled, "Survived something that should have killed me." Wow, I forgot how good real food tastes. Isn't that real food? With luck, I'll get to eat Arrival in a few souls. Log entry Soul 503. I didn't get as much recharge as I usually would yesterday. Because of my extended driving time, I only got up to 70% before night fell, so today's driving was abbreviated. I got 63 kilometers before I had to camp out again. But I don't even mind, because I'm only 148 kilometers from the MAV. That means I'll get there from the Seoul. That means I'll get there to Seoul after tomorrow. I'm really going to make it. Log entry 504. Holy crap, this is option. This is optional. Holy crap, this is awesome. Holy cramp. Okay, calm. I refuse to believe he's actually writing these. I think he's doing text-to-speech or something. I made 90 kilometers per day. I made 90 kilometers today. By my estimate, I'm 50 kilometers from the MAV. I should get there sometime tomorrow. I'm excited about that, but here's what I'm really stoked about. I caught a blip from the MAV. NASA has the MAV broadcasting the Ares 3 Hob homing signal. Why wouldn't they? It makes perfect sense. The Mob is a sleek, perfectly functional machine, ready to do what it's told. And they have it pretending to be the Ares 3 Hob, so my rover will see the signal and tell me where it is. That is an exceptionally good idea. I won't have to wander around looking for the thing, I'm going straight to it. I only caught a blip. I'll get more as I get closer. It's strange to think that a sand dune will stop me from hearing what the MAV has to say when it can talk to Earth no problem. The MAV has 3 redundant methods of communicating with Earth, but they're all extremely directed and are designed for line-of-sight communication, and there aren't any sand dunes between it and Earth when they talk. Somehow, they messed with things to make a radio signal, however weak it may be, and I heard it. My message for the day was, got beacon signal. If I'd have enough rocks, I would have added awesome idea, but it's a really sandy area. And then there's the last break. The Mauve waited in southwestern Schiaparelli. It stood an impressive 27 meters tall, its conical body gleaming in the midday sun. The rover crested a nearby dune with the trailer in tow. It slowed for a few moments, then continued towards the ship at top speed. Came to a stop 20 meters away. Then it remained for 10 minutes while the astronaut inside suited up. He stumbled excitedly out of the airlock, falling to the ground and scrambling to his belief. Beholding the MAV, he gestured to it with both arms, as if in disbelief. He leaped into the air several times, arms held high with fists clenched. Then he knelt on one knee and fist pumped repeatedly. Interesting. Running to the spacecraft, he hugged the landing strut B. After a few moments, he broke off the embrace and performed another round of leaping celebrations. Now fatigued, the astronaut stood with arms akimbo, looking up at the sleek lines of the engineering marvel before him. Climbing the ladder on the landing stage, he reached the ascent stage and entered the airlock. He sealed the door behind him. Ugh, man, okay, so that's the end of chapter 24. Now we're on to chapter 25. Log entry Soul 505. I finally made it. I'm at the Mauve. Well, right this second, I'm back in the rover. I did go into the Mauve to do a systems check and boot up. I had to keep my EVA suit on the whole time because there's no life support in there just yet. It's going through a self-check right now, and I'm feeding it oxygen and nitrogen with hoses from the rover. This is all part of the MAV's design. It doesn't bring air along. Why would it? It's a needless wait when you'll have a hob full of air right next door. I'm guessing folks at NASA are popping champagne right now and sending me lots of messages. I'll read them in a bit. First things first, get the MAV some life support. Then I'll be able to work inside comfortably. And then I'll have a boring meeting with NASA. Well, the content may be interesting, but the 14-minute transmission time between Earth and here will be a bit dull. And then there's a break. 1307. Houston. Congratulations from all of us here at Mission Control. Well done. What's your status? 1321. Mav. Thanks. No health or physical problems. The rover and trailer are getting pretty worn out, but still functional. Oxygenator and regulator both working fine. I didn't bring the water reclaimer, just brought the water. Plenty of potatoes left. I'm good to last till 5:49. 1336, Houston. Glad to hear it. Hermes is still on track for a Sol 549 flyby. As you know, the mob will need to lose some weight to make the intercept. We're going to get you those procedures within the day. How much water do you have? What did you do with urine? 1350, Mav. I have 550 liters of remaining water. I've been dumping urine outside along the way. 1405, Houston. Preserve all water. Don't do any more urine dumps. Store it somewhere. Turn the rover's radio on and leave it on. We can contact it through the MAV. And then there's the break again. Bruce trudged into Venkat's office and unceremoniously plopped down into the chair. He dropped his briefcase and let his arms hang limp. Had a good flight? Venkat asked. I only have a passing memory of what sleep is, Bruce said. So it is ready? Venkat asked. Yeah, it's ready, but you're not going to like it. Go on. Bruce steeled himself and stood, picking up his briefcase. He pulled a booklet from it. Bear in mind this is the end result of thousands of hours of work, testing, and lateral thinking by all the best guys at JPL. I'm sure it was hard to trim down a ship that's already designed to be as light as possible, Venkat said. Bruce slid the booklet across the desk to Venkat. The problem is the intercept velocity. MAV is designed to get to low Mars orbit, which only requires 4.1 kilometers per second. But the Hermes flyby will be at 5.8 kilometers per second. Venkat flipped through the pages. Here to summarize. First, we're going to add fuel. The MAV makes its own fuel from the Martian atmosphere, but it's limited by how much hydrogen it has. It brought enough to make 19,397 kilograms of fuel, as it was designed to do. But if we can give it more hydrogen, it can make more. How much more? For every kilogram of hydrogen, it can make 13 kilograms of fuel. Wani has 550 liters of water. We'll have him electrolyze it to get 60 kilograms of hydrogen. Bruce reached over the desk and flipped through pages, pointing to a diagram. The fuel plant can make 780 kilograms of fuel from that. If he electrolyzes his water, what will he drink? He only needs 50 liters from the time he is left, and the human body only borrows water. We'll have him electrolyze his urine too. We need all the hydrogen we can get our hands on. I see. And what does 780 kilograms of fuel buy us? Venkat asked. It buys us 300 kilograms of payload. It's about fuel versus payload. The MAV's launch weight is over 12,600 kilograms. Even with the bonus fuel, we'll need to get that down to 7,300 kilograms. So the rest of this booklet is how to remove over 5,000 kilograms from the ship. Venkat leaned back, walked me through it. Bruce pulled another copy of the booklet from his briefcase. There were some gimmies right off the bat. The design presumes 500 kilograms of Martian soil and rock samples. Obviously, we won't do that. Also, there's just one passenger instead of 6. That saves 500 kilograms when considered their weight plus the suits and gear. And we can lose the other 5 acceleration chairs. And of course, we'll remove all non-essential gear, the medkit, toolkit, internal harnessing, straps, and anything else that isn't nailed down. And some stuff that is. Next up, he continued, we're ditching all life support. The tanks, pumps, heaters, airlines, CO2 absorption system, even the insulation on the inner side of the hull. We don't need it. We'll have Watney wear his EVA suit for the entire trip. Won't that make it awkward for him to use the controls? Venkat asked. He won't be using them, Bruce said. Major Martinez will pilot the MAV remotely from Hermes. It's already designed for remote piloting. It was remotely landed after all. What if something goes wrong? Venkat asked. Martinez is the best trained pilot, Bruce said. If there is an emergency, he's the guy you want controlling the ship. Venkat said cautiously. We've never had a manned ship controlled remotely before. But okay, go on. Since Wani won't be flying the ship, Bruce continued, he won't need the controls. We'll ditch the control panels and all the power and data lines that lead to them. Wow, Venkat said. You're really gutting this thing.
I'm just getting started, Bruce said. The power needs will be dramatically reduced now that life support is gone, so we'll dump 3 of the 5 batteries and the auxiliary power system. The orbital maneuvering system has 3 redundant thrusters. We'll get rid of those. Also, the secondary and tertiary comm systems can go. Wait, what? Venkat said, shocked. You're gonna have a remote-controlled descent with no backup comm systems? No point, Bruce said. If the comm systems goes out during ascent, the time it takes us to reacquire will be too long to do any good. The backups don't help us. This is getting really risky, Bruce. Bruce sighed. I know. There's just no other way. And I'm not even to the nasty stuff yet. Venkat rubbed his forehead. By all means, tell me the nasty stuff. We'll remove the nose airlock, the windows, and hull panel 19. Venkat blinked. You're taking the front of the ship off? Sure, Bruce said. The nose airlock alone is 400 kilograms. The windows are pretty heavy too, and they're connected by hull panel 19, so may as well take that too. So he's going to launch with a big hole in the front of the ship. We'll have him cover it with hob canvas. Hob canvas? For a launch to orbit? Bruce shrugged. The hole is mostly there to keep the air in. Mars' atmosphere is so thin you don't need a lot of streamlining. By the time the ship's going fast enough for air resistance to matter, it'll be high enough that there's practically no air. We've run all the simulations. Should be good. You're sending him to space under a tarp. Pretty much, yeah. Like a hastily loaded pickup truck. Yeah, can I go on? Sure, can't wait. We'll also have him remove the back panel of the pressure vessel. It's the only other panel he can remove with the tools on hand. Also, we're getting rid of the auxiliary fuel pump. Sad to see it go, but it weighs too much for its usefulness. And we're nixing a stage 1 engine. An engine? Yeah, the stage 1 booster works fine if the engine goes out. It'll save us a huge amount of weight, only during the stage 1 ascent, but still, pretty good fuel savings. Bruce fell silent. That's it? Venkat asked. Yeah. Venkat sighed. You removed most of the safety backups. What's this due to the estimated odds of failure? It's about 4%. Ugh, Venkat said. Normally, we'd never even consider something that risky. It's all we got, Venk, Bruce said. We've tested it all out and run simulations galore. We should be okay if everything works the way it's supposed to. Yeah, great, Venkat said. And then there's a break. "8:41. Mav, you kidding me?" 9:55. Houston. Admittedly, they are very invasive modifications, but they have to be done. The procedure doc we sent has instructions for carrying out each of these steps with tools you have on hand. Also, you'll need to start electrolyzing water to get the hydrogen for the fuel plant. We'll send you procedures for that shortly. 9:09. Mav. You're sending me into space in a convertible. 9:24. Houston. There will be hob canvas covering the holes. It'll provide enough aerodynamics in Mars' atmosphere. 9:38. Mav. So it's a rag top. Much better. Log entry Sol 506. On the way here, in my copious free time, I designed a workshop. I figured I'd need space to work on stuff without having to wear an EVA suit. I devised a brilliant plan whereby the current bedroom would become the new home of the regulator and the oxygenator, and the now empty trailer would become my workshop. It's a stupid idea, and I'm not doing it. All I need is a pressurized area that I could work in. I somehow convinced myself that the bedroom wasn't an option because it's a hassle to get stuff into it. But it won't be that bad. It attaches to the rover airlock, so getting stuff in is going to be annoying. Bring the stuff into the rover, attach the bedroom to the airlock from the inside, inflate it, bring the stuff into the bedroom. I'll also have to empty the bedroom of all tools and equipment to fold it up anytime I need to do an EVA. So yeah, it'll be annoying, but all it costs me is time, and I'm eventually doing well on that front. I have 43 more sols before Hermes flies by, and I'm looking at the procedure NASA has in mind for the modifications, and I feel I can take advantage of the MAV itself as a workspace. The lunatics at NASA have me doing all kinds of mutilations to the MAV, but I don't have time to open the hole till the end. So the first thing I'll do is clear out a bunch of clutter, like chairs and control panels and the like. Once they're out, I'll have a lot of room in there to work. But I didn't do anything to this soon-to-be mutilated MAV today. Today was all about system checks. Now that I'm back in contact with NASA, I have to go back to being all safety first. Strangely, NASA doesn't have total faith in my clutched together rover, or my method of piling everything into the trailer. They had me do a full systems check on every single component. Everything's still working fine, though it's wearing down. The regulator and the oxygenator are at less than peak efficiency, to say the least, and the trailer leaks some air every day. Not enough to cause problems, but it's not a perfect seal. NASA's pretty uncomfortable with it. We don't have any other options. Then they had me run a full diagnostic on the MAV. That's in much better shape. Everything's sleek and pristine and perfectly functional. I'd almost forgotten what new hardware even looks like. Pity I'm going to tear it apart. And then there's a break. You killed Watley, Lewis said. Yeah, Martinez said, scowling at his monitor. The words collision with terrain blinked accusingly. I pulled a nasty trick on him, Johannesson said. I gave him a malfunctioning altitude readout and made engine 3 cut out too early. It's a deadly combination. Shouldn't have been a mission failure, Martinez said. I should have noticed the readout was wrong. It was way off. Don't sweat it, Lewis said. That's why we drew. Aye, Commander, Martinez said. He furrowed his brow and frowned at the screen. Lewis waited for him to snap out of it. When he didn't, she put a hand on his shoulder. Don't beat yourself up, she said. They only gave you 2 days of remote launch training. It was only supposed to happen if we aborted before landing. A cut-or-lots scenario where we'd launch the MAV to act as a satellite. It wasn't mission critical, so they didn't drill you too hard on it. Now that Mark's life depends on it, you've got 3 weeks to get it right, and I have no doubt you can do it. Aye, Commander, Martinez said, softening his scowl. Resetting the sim, Johansson said. Anything specific you want to try? Surprise me, Martinez said. Lewis left the control room and made her way to the reactor. As she climbed up the ladder to the center of the ship, the centripetal force on her diminished to 0. Vogel looked from a computer console. Commander, how are the engines? She asked, grabbing a wall-mounted handle to stay attached in the slowly turning room. All working within tolerance, Vogel said. I am now doing a diagnostic on the reactor. I am thinking that Johansson is busy with the launch and training, so perhaps I do this diagnostic for her. Good idea, Lewis said. And how is our course? All is well, Vogel said. No adjustments necessary. We are still on track to planned trajectory within 4 meters. Keep me posted if anything changes. Da, Commander. Floating to the other side of the core, Lewis took the other ladder out, again gaining gravity as she went down. She made her way to the Airlock 2 ready room. Beck held a coil of metal wire in one hand and a pair of work gloves in the other. Hey, Commander, what's up? I'd like to know your plan for recovering Mark. Easy enough if the intercept is good, Beck said. I just finished attaching all the tethers we have into one long line. It's 214 meters long. I'll have the MMU pack on, so moving around will be easy. I can get up to around 10 meters per second safely. Any more, and I risk breaking the tether if I can't stop in time. Once you get to Mark, how fast of a relative velocity can you handle? I can grab the MAV easily at 5 meters per second. 10 meters per second is kind of like jumping onto a moving train. Anything more than that, and I might miss. So, including the MMU safe speed, we need to get the ship within 20 meters per second of his velocity. And the intercept has to be within 214 meters, Beck said. Pretty narrow margin of error. We've got a lot of leeway, Lewis said. The launch will be 52 minutes before the intercept, and it takes 12 minutes. As soon as Mark's S2 engine cuts out, we'll know our intercept point and velocity. If we don't like it, we'll have 40 minutes to correct. Our engine's 2 millimeters per second may not seem like much, but in 40 minutes it can move us up to 5.7 kilometers. Good, Beck said. And 214 meters isn't a hard limit, per se. Yes, it is, Lewis said. Nah, Beck said. I know I'm not supposed to go untethered, but without my leash I could get way out there. Not an option, Lewis said. But we could double or even triple our safe intercept range. We're done talking about this, Lewis said sharply. Aye, Commander. Log entry Sol 526. There aren't many people who can say they vandalized a $3 billion spacecraft, but I'm one of them. I've been pulling critical hardware out of the MAV left and right. It's nice to know that my launch to orbit won't have any pesky backup systems weighing me down. First thing I did was remove the small stuff. Then came the things I could disassemble, like the crew seats, several of the backup systems, and the control panels. I'm not improvising anything. I'm following a script sent by NASA, which was set up to make things as easy as possible. Sometimes I miss the days when I made all the decisions myself. Then I shake it off and remember I'm infinitely better off with a bunch of geniuses deciding what I do than I am making it up as I go along. Periodically, I suit up, crawl into the airlock with as much junk as I can fit, and dump it outside. The area around the MAV looks like the set of Sanford and Son. I learned about Sanford and Son from Lewis's collection. Seriously, that woman needs to see someone about her 70s problem. Log entry Sol 529. I'm turning water into rocket fuel. It's easier than you'd think. Separating hydrogen and oxygen only requires a couple of electrodes and some current. The problem is collecting the hydrogen. I don't have any equipment for pulling hydrogen out of the air. The atmospheric regulator doesn't even know how. The last time I had to get hydrogen out of the air, back when I turned the hob into a bomb, I burned it to turn into water. Obviously, that would be counterproductive. But NASA thought everything through and gave me a process. First, I disconnected the rover and trailer from each other. Then, while wearing my EVA suit, I depressurized the trailer and backfilled it with pure oxygen at 1/4 of an atmosphere. Then I opened the plastic box full of water and put a couple of electrodes in. That's why I needed the atmosphere. Without it, the water would just boil immediately and I'd be hanging around in a steamy atmosphere. The electrolysis separated the hydrogen and oxygen from each other. Now the trailer was full of even more oxygen and also hydrogen. Pretty dangerous, actually. Then I fired up the atmospheric regulator. I know I just said it doesn't recognize hydrogen, but it does know how to yank oxygen out of the air. I broke all the safeties and set it to pull 100% of the oxygen out. After it was done, all that was left in the trailer was hydrogen. That's why I started out with an atmosphere of pure oxygen, so the regulator could separate it later. Then I cycled the rover's airlock with the inner door open. The airlock thought it was evacuating itself, but it was actually evacuating the whole trailer. The air was stored in the airlock's holding tank, and there you have it, a tank of pure oxygen. I carried the airlock's holding tank to the MAV and transferred the contents to the MAV's hydrogen tanks. I've said this many times before, but hooray for standardized valve systems. Finally, I fired up the fuel plant, and I got to work making the additional fuel I need. I need to go through this process several more times as the launch day approaches. I'm even going to electrolyze my urine. That'll make for a pleasant smell in the trailer. If I survive this, I'll tell people I was peeing rocket fuel. And then there's a break. (9:22) Johansson. Hello, Mark. 9:23 Mav. Johansson? Holy crap. They finally letting you talk to me directly? 19:24 Johansson. Yes, NASA gave the okay for direct communication an hour ago. We're only 35 light seconds apart, so we can talk in near real time. I just set up the system and I'm testing it out. 19:24 Mav. What took them so long to let us talk? 19:25 Johansson. The psych team was worried about personality conflicts. 19:25 Mav. What? Just because you guys abandoned me on a godforsaken planet with no chance of survival? 19:26 Funny. Don't make that kind of joke with Lewis. 19:27 Mav. Roger. So, thanks for coming back to get me. (1927) Johansson. It's the least we could do. How is the mob retrofit going? 1928 Mob. So far, so good. NASA put a lot of thought into the procedures. They work. That's not to say they're easy. I spent the last 3 days removing whole panel 19 and the front window. Even in Mars G, they're insanely heavy. 1929, Johansen. When we pick you up, I will make wild, passionate love to you. Prepare your body. 1929, Johansen. I didn't type that. That was Martinez. I stepped away from the console for like 10 seconds. 1929, Mauve. I've really missed you guys. Log entry Soul 543. I'm done. I think I'm done. I did everything on the list. The Mauve is ready to fly, and in 6 souls, that's just what it will do, I hope. It might not launch at all. I did remove an engine after all. I could have screwed up all sorts of things during that process. And there's no way to test the ascent stage. Once you light it, it's there. Everything else, however, will go through tests from now until launch. Some done by me, some done remotely by NASA. They're not telling me the failure odds, but I'm guessing they're the highest in history. Yuri Gagarin had a much more reliable and safe ship than I do, and Soviet ships were death traps. And then there's a break. All right, Lewis said. Tomorrow's the big day. The crew floated in the wreck. They had halted the rotation of the ship in preparation for the upcoming operation. I'm ready, Martinez said. Johansen threw everything she could at me. I got all scenarios to orbit. Everything other than catastrophic failures, Johansen corrected. Well, yeah, Martinez said. Kind of pointless to simulate an ascent explosion. Nothing we can do. Vogel, Lewis said. How is our course? It is perfect, Vogel said. We are within 1 meter of projected path and 2 centimeters per second of projected velocity. Good, she said. Beck, how about you? Everything's all set up, Commander, Beck said. The tethers are linked and spooled in airlock 2. My suit and MMU are prepped and ready. Okay, the battle plan is pretty obvious, Lewis said. She grabbed a handhold on the wall to halt a slow drift she had acquired. Martinez will fly the MAV. Johansen will sizz off the ascent. Beck and Vogel, I want you in airlock 2 with the outer door open before the Mauve even launches. You'll have to wait 52 minutes, but I don't want to risk any technical glitches with the airlock or your seats. Once we reach intercept, it will be Beck's job to get Watney. He might be in bad shape when I get him, Beck said. The stripped-down MAV will get up to 12 Gs during the launch. He could be unconscious and may even have internal bleeding. Just as well you're a doctor, Lewis said. Vogel, if all goes according to plan, you're pulling Beck and Watney back aboard with the tether. If things goes wrong, your Beck's back up. Yeah, Vogel said. I wish there was more we could do right now, Lewis said, but all we have left is to wait. Your work schedules are cleared, while scientific experiments are suspended. Sleep if you can, run diagnostics on your equipment if you can't. We'll get him, Commander, Martinez said as the others floated out. 24 hours from now, Mark Watney will be right here in this room. Let's hope so, Major, Lewis said. My throat is killing me. Last break. Final checks for the shift are complete, Mitch said into his headset. Timekeeper. Go, flight, said the timekeeper. Time until MAV launch. 16 hours, 9 minutes, 40 seconds, mark. Copy that. All stations. Flight director shift change. He took his headset off and rubbed his eyes. Brendan Hutch took the headset from him and put it on. All stations. Flight director is now Brendan Hutch. Call me if anything happens, Mitch said. If not, I'll see you tomorrow. Get some sleep, boss, Brendan said. Venkat watched from the observation booth. Why the timekeeper? He mumbled. It's on the huge mission clock in the center screen. He's nervous, Annie said. You don't often see it, but that's what Mitch Henderson looks like when he's nervous. He double and triple checks everything. Fair enough, Venkat said. They're camping out on the lawn, by the way, Annie said. Reporters from all over the world. Our press rooms just don't have enough space. The media loves drama, he sighed. It'll be over tomorrow, one way or another. What's our role in all this? Annie said. If something goes wrong, what can Mission Control do? Nothing, Venkat said. Not a damn thing. Nothing? It's all happening 12 light minutes away. That means it takes 24 minutes for them to get the answer to any question they ask. The whole launch is 12 minutes long. They're on their own. So we're completely helpless? Yes, Venkat said. Sucks, doesn't it? Log entry Soul 549. She bound, man. And I lost my page. Fuck you. Okay, back on it. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared. In 4 hours, I'm going to ride a giant explosion into orbit. This is something I've done a few times before, but never with a jury-rigged mess like this. Right now, I'm sitting in the MAV. I'm suited up because there's a big hole in the front of the ship where the window and part of the hole used to be. I'm awaiting launch instructions. Really, I'm just awaiting launch. I don't have any part in this. I'm just going to sit in the acceleration couch and hope for the best. Last night, I ate my final meal pack. It's the first good meal I've had in weeks. I'm leaving 41 potatoes behind. That's how close I came to starvation. I carefully collected samples during my journey, but I can't bring any of them with me, so I put them in a container a few hundred meters from here. Maybe someday they'll send a probe to collect them. Might as well make them easy to pick up. This is it. There's nothing after this. There isn't even an abort procedure. Why make one? We can't delay the launch. Hermes can't stop and wait. No matter what, we're launching on schedule. I face the very real possibility that I'll die today. Can't say I like it. It wouldn't be so bad if the MEV blew up. I wouldn't know what hit me, but if I miss the intercept, I'll just float around in space until I run out of air. I have a contingency plan for that. I'll drop the oxygen mixture to 0 and breathe pure nitrogen until I suffocate. It won't feel bad. The lungs don't have the ability to sense lack of oxygen. I just get tired, fall asleep, then die. I still can't quite believe that this is really it. I'm really leaving. This frigid desert has been my home for a year and a half. I figured out how to survive, at least for a while, and got used to how things work. My terrifying struggle to stay alive became somehow a routine. Get up in the morning, eat breakfast, tend my crops, fix broken stuff, eat lunch, answer email, watch TV, eat dinner, go to bed. The life of a modern farmer. Then I was a trucker doing a long haul across the world. And finally, a construction worker, rebuilding a ship in ways no one ever considered before this. I've done a little of everything here because I'm the only one around to do it. That's all over now. I have no more jobs to do and no more nature to defeat. I have had my last Martian potato. I've slept in the rover for the last time. I've left my last footprints in the dusty red sand. I'm leaving Mars today, one way or another. About time. Hey guys, you think Mark's gonna die? You think this is gonna fail? What do you think? What do you think's the outcome of all this? I wonder what's gonna be the outcome. Oh man. Yeah, I'm just I feel like I'm losing my voice. Chapter 26. They gathered. Everyone on Earth, they gathered. In Trafalgar Square and Tiananmen Square and Times Square, they watched on giant screens. In offices, they huddled around computer monitors. In bars, they stared silently at the TV in the corner. In homes, they sat breathlessly on their couches, their eyes glued to the story playing out. In Chicago, a middle-aged couple clutched each other's hands as they watched. The man held his wife gently as she rocked back and forth out of sheer terror. The NASA representative knew not to disturb them, but stood ready to answer any questions, should they ask. "Fuel pressure green," Johansson's voice said from a billion televisions. "Engine alignment perfect. Communications 5x5. We are ready for pre-flight checklist, Commander." "Copy," Lewis's voice. "Capcom. Go," Johansson responded. "Guidance. Go," Johansson said again. "Remote command." "Go," said Martinez. "Pilot." "Go," said Watney from the MAV. A mild cheer coruscated through the crowds worldwide. Watney is the pilot? Interesting. And then there's a break, because of course it's climactic and there's many breaks. Mitch sat at his station in mission control. The controllers monitored everything and were ready to help in any way they could, but the communication latency between Hermes and Earth rendered them powerless to do anything but watch. Telemetry, Lewis' voice said over the speakers. Go, Johansson responded. Recovery, she continued. Go, said Beck from the airlock. Secondary recovery. Go, said Vogel from beside Beck. Mission control. This is Hermes Actual, Lewis reported. We are go for launch and will proceed on schedule. We are T-minus 4 minutes, 10 seconds to launch. Mark. Did you get that, timekeeper? Mitch said. Affirmative, flight, was the response. Our clocks are synced with theirs. Not that we can do anything, Mitch mumbled, but at least we'll know what's supposedly happening. And then there's a break. About 4 minutes, Mark, Lewis said into her mic. How are you doing down there? Eager to get up there, Commander, Watney responded. We are going to make that happen, Lewis said. Remember, you'll be pulling some pretty hefty G's. It's okay to pass out. You're in Martinez's hands. Tell that jackass no barrel rolls. Copy that, MAV, Lewis said. 4 more minutes, Martinez said, cracking his knuckles. You ready for some flying, Beth? Yeah, Johansson said. It'll be strange to sizz up a launch and stay in zero G the whole time. I hadn't thought of it that way, Martinez said. But yeah, I'm not going to be squashed against the back of my seat. Weird. And then there's a break, of course. Beck floated in the airlock, tethered to a wall-mounted spool. Vogel stood beside him, his boots clamped to the floor. Both stared through their open outed door at the red planet below. Didn't think I'd be back here again, Beck said. Yes, Vogel said. We are the first. First what? We are the first to visit Mars twice. Oh yeah, even Watney can't say that. He cannot. They looked at Mars in silence for a while. Vogel, Beck said. Yeah. If I can't reach Mark, I want you to release my tether. Dr. Beck, Vogel said. The commander has said no to this. I know what the commander said, but if I need a few more meters, I want you to cut me loose. I have an MMU. I can get back without a tether. I will not do this, Dr. Beck. It's my own life at risk, and I say it's okay. You are not the commander. Beck scowled at Vogel, but with their reflective visors down, the effect was lost. Fine, Beck said, but I guess you'll change your mind if push comes to shove. Vogel did not respond. And then there's a break. T-minus 10, said Johansson. 9, 8. Main engine start, said Martinez. 7, 6, 5. Mooring clamps released. About 5 seconds, Watney, Lewis said to their headset. Hang on. See you in a few, Commander, Watney radioed back. 4, 3, 2. And then there's a break, because of course there is. Watney lay in the acceleration couch as the MAV rumbled in an anticipation of liftoff. He said to nobody. I wonder how much longer. The MAV launched with incredible force, more than any manned ship had ever accelerated in the history of space travel. Watney was shoved back into his couch so hard he couldn't even grunt. Having anticipated this, he had placed a folded-up shirt behind his head in the helmet. As his head drove even deeper into the makeshift cushion, the edges of his vision became blurry. He could neither breathe nor move. Directly in his field of view, the hob canvas patch flapped violently as the ship exponentially gained speed. Concentration became difficult, but something in the back of his mind told him that flapping was bad. And then there's a break. Velocity 741 meters per second, Johansson called out. Altitude 1,350 meters. Copy, Martinez said. That's low, Lewis said. Too low. I know, Martinez said. It's sluggish, fighting me. What the hell is going on? Velocity 850. Altitude 1,843. Johansson said. I'm not getting the power I need, Martinez said. Engine power at 100%, Johansson said. I'm telling you it's sluggish, Martinez insisted. Watney, Lewis said to her headset. Watney, do you read? Can you report?
And then there's a break. Watney heard Lewis's voice in the distance, like someone talking to him through a long tunnel. He vaguely wondered what she wanted. His attention was briefly drawn to the fluttering canvas ahead of him. A rip had appeared and was rapidly widening. But then he was distracted by a bolt in one of the bulkheads. It only had 5 sides. He wondered why NASA had decided that bolt needed 5 sides instead of 6. It would require a special wrench to tighten or loosen. The canvas tore even further, and the tattered material flapping wildly. Through the opening, Watney saw red skies stretching out infinitely ahead. That's nice, he thought. As the MUV flew higher, the atmosphere grew thinner. Soon, the canvas stopped fluttering and simply stretched towards Mark. The sky shifted from red to black. That's nice too, Mark thought. As consciousness slipped away, he wondered where he could get a cool 5-sided bolt like that. Why are we talking about the bolt now? And then there's a break, because of course. I'm getting more response now, Martinez said. Back on track with full acceleration, Johansson said. Must have been dragged. Miles out of the atmosphere now. It was like flying a cow, Martinez grumbled, his hands racing over his controls. Can you get him up? Lewis said. He'll get to orbit, Johansson said, but the intercept course may be compromised. Get him up first, Lewis said, then we'll worry about intercept. Copy. Main engine cut off in 15 seconds. Totally smooth now, Martinez said. It's not fighting me at all anymore. Well below target altitude, Johansson said. Velocity is good. How far below? Lewis said. Can't say for sure, Johansson said. All I have is accelerometer data. We'll need radar pings at intervals to work out his true final orbit. Back to automatic guidance, Martinez said. Main shutdown in 4, Johansson said. 3, 2, 1. Shutdown. Confirm shutdown, Martinez said. Watney, you there? Lewis said. Watney, do you read? Probably passed out, Commander, Beck said over the radio. He pulled 12 Gs on the ascent. Give him a few minutes. Copy, Lewis said. Johansson got his orbit yet? I have interval pings, working out our intercept range and velocity. Martinez and Lewis stared at Johansson as she brought up the intercept calculation software. Normally, orbits would be worked out by Vogel, but he was otherwise engaged. Johansson was his backup for orbital dynamics. Intercept velocity will be 11 meters per second, she began. I can make that work, Beck said over the radio. Distance at intercept will be... Johansson stopped and choked. Shakily, she continued. We'll be 68 kilometers apart. She buried her face in her hands. Did she say 68 kilometers? Beck said. Kilometers? Damn it, Martinez whispered. Keep it together, Lewis said. Work the problem. Martinez, is there any juice in the MAV? Negative, Commander, Martinez responded. They ditched the OMS system to lighten the launch weight. Then we'll have to go to him. Johansson, time to intercept? 39 minutes, 12 seconds, Johansson said, trying not to quaver. Vogel, Lewis said. How far can we deflect in 39 minutes with the ion engines? Perhaps 5 kilometers, he radioed. Not enough, Lewis said. Martinez, what if we point our altitude thrusters all at the same direction? Depends on how much fuel we want to save for altitude adjustments on the trip home. How much do you need? I could get by with maybe 20% of what's left. Alright, if you use the other 80%, checking, Martinez said, running the numbers on his console, we'd get a delta V of 31 meters per second. Johansson, Lewis said, math. In 39 minutes, we'd deflect, Johansson quickly typed, 72 kilometers. There we go, Lewis said. How much fuel? Use 75.5% of remaining altitude just fuel. That will bring the intercept range to 0. Do it, Lewis said. Aye, Commander, Martinez said. Hold on, Johansson said. That'll get the intercept range to 0, but the intercept velocity will be 42 meters per second. Then we have 39 minutes to figure out how to slow down, Lewis said. Martinez, burn the jets. Burn the jets. Aye, Martinez said. Then there's a break. Whoa, and he said to Venkat, a lot of crap just happened really fast. Explain. Venkat strained to hear the audio feed over the murmur of the VIPs in the observation booth. Venkat strained to hear the audio feed over the murmur of the VIPs in the observation booth.
Through the glass, he saw Mitch throw up his hands in frustration. The launch missed badly, Venkat said, looking past Mitch to the screens beyond. The intercept distance was going to be way too big, so they're using the altitude adjusters to close the gap. What do altitude adjusters usually do? They rotate the ship. They're not made for thrusting it. Hermes doesn't have quick reaction engines, just a slow, steady ion engines. So, problem solved? Annie said hopefully. No, Venkat said. They'll get to him, they'll be going 42 meters per second when they get there. How fast is that? Annie asked. About 90 miles an hour, Venkat said. There's no hope of Beck grabbing Watney at that speed. Can they use the altitude adjusters to slow down? They needed a lot of velocity to close the gap in time. They used all the fuel they could spare to get going fast enough. But now they don't have enough fuel to slow down, Venkat frowned. So what can they do? I don't know, he said, and even if I did, I couldn't tell them in time. Well, crap, Annie said. Yeah, Venkat agreed. Then there's a break. Watney, Lewis said. Do you read? Watney? She repeated. Commander, Beck radioed. He's wearing a surface EVA suit, right? Yeah. It should have a biomonitor, Beck said, and it'll be broadcasting. It's not a strong signal. It's only designed to go a couple hundred meters to the rover or hop, but maybe we can pick it up. Johansson, Lewis said. On it, Johansson said. I have to look up the frequencies in the tech specs. Give me a second. Martinez, Lewis continued. Any idea how to slow down? He shook his head. I got nothing, Commander. We're just going too fast. Vogel? The ion drive is simply not strong enough, Vogel replied. There's gotta be something, Lewis said. Something we can do. Anything. Got his biomonitor data, Johansson said. Pulse 58, blood pressure 98/61. That's not bad, Beck said. Lower than I'd like, but he's been in Mars gravity for 18 months, so it's expected. Time to intercept? Lewis asked. 32 minutes, Johansson replied. And then, let's go. Another break. Blissful unconsciousness became foggy awareness, which transitioned into painful reality. That's just my life in a nutshell. Watney opened his eyes and winced at the pain in his chest. Little remained of the canvas. Tatters floated along the edge of the hole it once covered. This granted Watney an unobstructed view of Mars from orbit. The red planet's crater-pocked surface stretched out seemingly forever, its thin atmosphere a slight blur along the edge. Only 18 people in history had personally seen this view. Bite me, he said to the planet below. Reaching towards the controls on his arm, he winced. Trying again, more slowly again, he activated his radio. Mauve to Hermes. Watney, came the reply. Affirmative. That you, Commander? Watney said. Affirmative. What's your status? I'm on a ship with no control panel, he said. That's as much as I can tell you. How do you feel? My chest hurts. I think I broke a rib. How are you? How about you? We're working on getting you, Lewis said. There was complication in the launch. Yeah, Watney said, looking out at the hole on the ship. The canvas didn't hold. I think we ripped it early in the ascent. That's consistent with what we saw during the launch. How bad is it, Commander? He asked. We were able to correct the intercept range with Hermes altitude thrusters, but there's a problem with the intercept velocity. How big a problem? 42 meters per second. Well, crap. And then there's a break. How many breaks left? Hey, at least he's okay for the moment, Martinez said. Beck, Lewis said. I'm coming around to your way of thinking. How fast can we get going if you're untethered? Sorry, Commander, Beck said. I already ran the numbers. At best I could get 25 meters per second. Even if I could get to 42, I'd need another 42 to match Hermes when I came back. Copy, Lewis said. Hey, Watney said over the radio. I've got an idea. Of course you do, Lewis said. What you got? I could find something sharp in here and poke a hole in the glove of my EVA suit. I could use the escaping air as a thruster and fly my way to you. The source of thrust would be on my arm, so I'd be able to direct it pretty easily. How does he come up with this stuff? Martinez injected. Lewis said. Could you get 42 meters per second that way? No idea, Watney said. I can't see you having any control if you did that, Lewis said. You'd be eyeballing the intercept and using a thrust vector you can barely control. I admit it's fatally dangerous, Watney said, but consider this. I get to fly around like Iron Man. We'll keep working on ideas, Lewis said. Iron Man, Commander. Iron Man. Stand by, Lewis said. She furrowed her brow. Maybe it's not such a bad idea. You kidding, Commander? Martinez said. It's a terrible idea. He'd shoot off into space. Not the whole idea, but part of it, she said, using atmosphere as thrust. Martinez, get Vogel Station up and running. Okay, Martinez said, typing at his keyboard. The screen changed to Vogel's workstation. Martinez quickly changed the language from German to English. It's up. What do you need? Vogel's got software for calculating course offsets calculated by whole beaches, right? Yeah, Martinez said. It estimates course correction needed in the event of... Yeah, Lewis said. Fired up. I need to know what happens if we blow the VAL. Johansson and Martinez looked at each other. Yes, Commander, Martinez said. The vehicular airlock, Johansson said. You want to open it? Plenty of air on the ship, Lewis said. It'd give us a good kick. Yes, Martinez said as he brought up the software, and might blow the nose off the ship in the process. Also, all the air would leave, Johansson felt compelled to add. We'll seal the bridge and reactor room. We can't let everywhere else go vacuo, but we don't want explosive decompression in here or near the reactor. Martinez entered the scenario into the software. I think we'll just have the same problem as Watney, but on a larger scale. We can't direct that thrust. We don't have to, Lewis said. The VAL is in the nose. Escaping air would make a thrust vector through our center of mass. We just need to point the ship directly away from where we want to go. Okay, I have the numbers, Martinez said. A breach at the VAL, with the bridge and reactor room sealed off, would accelerate us 29 meters per second. We'd have a relative velocity of 13 meters per second afterwards, Johansson supplied. Beck, Lewis radioed. Have you been hearing all this? Affirmative, Commander, Beck said. Can you do 13 meters per second? It'll be risky, Beck replied. 13 to match the MAV, then another 13 to match Hermes. But it's a lot better than 42. Johansson, Lewis said. Time to intercept? 18 minutes, Commander. What kind of jolt will we feel with that breach? Lewis asked Martinez. The air will take 4 seconds to evacuate, he said. We'll feel a little less than 1 G. Watney, she said to her headset. We have a plan. Yay, a plan, Watney replied. Then there's a break. Houston, Lewis's voice ran through mission control. Be advised, we are going to deliberately breach the VAL to produce a thrust. What? Mitch said. What? Oh my god, Venkat said in the observation room. Whoa, okay, and he said, getting up. I better get to the press room. Any parting knowledge before I go? They're going to breach the ship, Venkat said, still dumbfounded. They're going to deliberately breach the ship. Oh my god. Got it, and he said, jogging to the door. And then there's a break again. Oh my god, my throat is killing me again. Where's my water? Where's my water? How will we open the airlock doors? Martinez asked. There's no way to open them remotely, and if anyone's nearby when it blows... Right, Lewis said. We can't open one door with the other shut, but how do we open the other? She thought for a moment. Vogel, she radioed. I need you to come back in and make a bomb. Again, please, Commander? Vogel replied. A bomb, Lewis confirmed. You're a chemist. Can you make a bomb out of stuff on board? Yeah, Vogel said. We have flammables and pure oxygen. Sounds good, Lewis said. It is, of course, dangerous to set off an explosive device on a spacecraft, Vogel pointed out. So make it small, Lewis said. Just needs to poke a hole in the inner airlock door. Any hole will do. If it blows the door off, that's fine. If it doesn't, the air will get out slower but for longer. The momentum change is the same and we got the acceleration we need. Pressurizing airlock 2, Vogel reported. How will we activate this bomb? Johansson, Lewis said. Johansson said. She picked up her headset and quickly put it on. Vogel, can you run wires into it? Yeah, Vogel said. I'll use threaded stopper with a small hole for the wires. It will have little effect on the seal. We could run the wire to lighting panel 41, Johansson said. It's next to the airlock and I can turn it on and off from here. There's a remote trigger, Lewis said. Johansson, go set up the lighting panel. Vogel, get in here and make the bomb. Martinez, go close and seal the doors to the reactor room. Yes, Commander, Johansson said, kicking off her seat towards the hallway. Commander, Martinez said, pausing at the exit, you want me to bring back some spacesuits? No point, Lewis said. If the seal on the bridge doesn't hold, we'll get sucked out close to the speed of sound. We will be jetty with or without suits on. Hey, Martinez, said Beck over the radio, can you move my lab mice somewhere else? Somewhere safe? They're in the biolab. It's just one cage. Copy, Beck, said Martinez. I'll move them to the reactor room. Are you back in yet, Vogel? Lewis asked. I'm just re-entering now, Commander. Beck, Lewis said to her headset, I'll need you back in too, but don't take your suit off. Okay, Beck said. Why? We're going to have to literally blow up one of the doors, Lewis explained. I'd rather we kill the inner one. I want the outer door unharmed so we keep our smooth aero-braking shape. Makes sense, Beck responded as he floated back into the ship. One problem, Lewis said. I want the outer door locked in a fully open position with the mechanical stopper in place to keep it from being trashed by the decompress. You have to have someone in the airlock to do that, Beck said, and you can't open the inner door if the outer door is locked open. Right, Lewis said, so I need you to come back inside, depressurize the VAL, and lock the outer door open. Then you'll need to crawl along the hole to get back to airlock 2. Copy, Commander, Beck said. There are latch points all over the hole. I'll move my tether along, mountain climber style. Get to it, Lewis said, and Vogel, you're in a hurry. You'll have to make the bomb, set it up, go back to airlock 2, suit up, depressurize it, and then open the outer door so Beck can get in when he's done. He's taking his suit off right now and can't reply, Beck reported, but he heard the order. Watney, how are you doing? Lewis's voice said in his ear. Fine so far, Watney replied. You mentioned a plan? Affirmative, she said. We're going to vent atmosphere to get thrust. How? We're going to blow a hole in the VAL. What? Watney said. How? Vogel's making a bomb. I knew that guy was a mad scientist, Watney said. I think we should go with my Iron Man idea. That's too risky and you know it, she replied. Thing is, Watney, I'm selfish. I want the memorials back home to be just for me. I don't want the rest of you losers in them. I can't let you guys blow the valve. Oh, Lewis said. Well, if you won't let us, then wait a minute. I'm looking at my shoulder patch, and it turns out I'm the commander. Sit tight. We're coming to get you. Smart ass. And then there's a break, again. As a chemist, Vogel knew how to make a bomb. In fact, much of his training was to avoid making them by mistake. The ship had few flammables aboard due to the fatal danger of fire, but food, by its very nature, contained flammable hydrocarbons. Lacking time to sit down and do the math, he estimated. Sugar has 4,000 food calories per kilogram. 1 food calorie is 4,184 joules. Joules. Sugar in joule G will float, and the grains will separate, maximizing surface area. In a pure oxygen environment, 16.7 million joules will be released for every kilogram of sugar used, releasing the explosive force of 8 sticks of dynamite. Such is the nature of combustion in pure oxygen. Vogel measured the sugar carefully. He poured it into the strongest container he could find, a thick glass beaker. The strength of the container was as important as the explosive. A weak container would simply cause a fireball without much concussive force. A strong container, however, would contain the pressure until it reached true destructive potential. He quickly drilled a hole into the beaker stopper, then stripped a section of wire. He ran the wire through the hole. Sehr gefährlich, he mumbled as he poured liquid oxygen from the ship's supply into the container, then quickly screwed the stopper on. In just a few minutes, he had made a rudimentary pipe bomb. Sehr gefährlich. He floated out of the lab and made his way towards the nose of the ship. And then there's a break. Johansson worked on the lighting panel as Buck floated towards the valve. She grabbed his arm. Be careful crawling along the hole. He turned to face her. Be careful setting up the bomb. She kissed his faceplate, then looked away embarrassed. That was stupid. Don't tell anyone I did that. Don't tell anyone I liked it, Beck smiled. He entered the airlock and sealed the inner door. After depressurizing, he opened the outer door and locked it in place. Grabbing a handrail on the hole, he pulled himself out. Johansson watched until he was no longer in view, then returned to the lighting panel. She had deactivated it earlier from her workstation. After pulling the length of the cable out and stripping the ends, she fiddled with a roll of electrical tape until Vogel arrived. He showed up just a minute later, carefully floating down the hall with a palm held in both hands. I have used a single wire for igniting, he explained. I did not want to risk 2 wires for a spark. It would be dangerous to us if we had static while setting up. How do we set it off? Johansson said. The wire must reach a high temperature. If you short power through it, that will be sufficient. I'll have to pin the breaker, Johansson said, without a word. She twisted the lighting wires onto the bombs and placed them on and taped them off. Excuse me, Vogel said. I have to return to airlock 2 to let Dr. Beck back in. Johansson said. And then there's a break, again. Martinez floated back onto the bridge. I had a few minutes, so I ran through the aero brake lockdown checklist for the reactor room. Everything's ready for acceleration and the compartment's sealed off. Good thinking, Lewis said. Prep the altitude correction. Roger, Commander, Martinez said, drifting to his station. The valve was propped open, Beck's voice said over the comm, starting my transverse across the hole. Copy, Lewis said. This calculation is tricky, Martinez said. I need to do everything backwards. The valve's in front, so the source of thrust will be exactly opposite to our engines. Our software wasn't expecting us to have an engine there. I just need to tell it we plan to thrust towards Mark. Take your time and get it right, Lewis said, and don't execute until I give you the word. We're not spinning the ship around while Beck's out on the hole. Roger, he said. After a moment, he added, okay, the adjustment's ready to execute. Stand by, Lewis said. Holy crap. Okay, there's another break. Vogel, back in his seat, depressurized airlock 2 and opened the outer door. About time, Beck said, climbing in. Sorry for the delay, Vogel said. I was required to make a bomb. This has been kind of a weird day, Beck said. Commander, Vogel and I are in position. Copy, was Lewis's response. Get up against the fore wall of the airlock. It's going to be about 1 G for 4 seconds. Make sure you're both tethered in. Copy, Beck said as he attached his tether. The 2 men pressed themselves against the wall. Like true men do. Alright, another break. Okay, Martinez, Lewis said. Point us at the right direction. Copy, Martinez said, executing the altitude adjustment. Johansson floated into the bridge as the adjustment was performed. The room rotated around her as she reached for a handhold. The bomb is ready, and the breakers jammed closed, she said. I can set it off by remotely turning on relighting panel 41. Seal the bridge and get to your station, Lewis said. Copy, Johansson said. Unsealing the emergency seal, she plugged the entrance to the bridge. With a few turns of the crank, the job was done. She returned to her station and ran a quick test. Increasing bridge pressure to 1.03 atmospheres. Pressure is steady. We have a good seal. Copy, Lewis said. Time to intercept? 28 seconds, 28 seconds, Johansson said. Wow, Martinez said. We cut that pretty close. You ready, Johansson? Lewis said. Yes, Johansson said. All I have to do is press enter. Johansson, Martinez, how's our angle? Dead on, Commander, Martinez reported. Strap in, Lewis said. The 3 of them tightened the restraints of their chairs. 20 seconds, Johansson said. And then there's a break. Teddy took his seat in the VIP room. What's the status? 15 seconds until they blow the VAL, Venkat said. Where have you been? On the phone with the president, Teddy said. Do you think this will work? I have no idea, Venkat said. I have never felt this helpless in my life. If it's any consolation, Teddy said, pretty much everyone in the world feels the same way. On the other side of the glass, Mitch paced to and fro. There's a break, sorry. 5, 4, 3, Johansson said. Brace for acceleration, Lewis said. 2, 1, Johansson continued, activating lighting panel 41. She pressed enter. Inside Vogel's bomb, the full current of the ship's internal lighting system flowed through a thin exposed wire. It quickly reached the ignition temperature of the sugar. What would have been a minor fizzle in Earth's atmosphere became an uncontrolled conflagration in the container's pure environment of oxygen. In under 100 milliseconds, the massive combustion pressure burst the container, and the resultant explosion ripped the airlock door to shreds. The internal air of Hermes rushed through the open VAL, blasting Hermes in the other direction. Vogel and Beck were pressed against the wall of airlock 2. Lewis, Martinez, and Johansson endured the acceleration in their seats. It was not a dangerous amount of force. In fact, it was less than the force of Earth's surface gravity, but it was inconsistent and jerky. After 4 seconds, the shaking died down and the ship returned to weightlessness. Reactor room still pressurized, Martinez reported. Bridge seal holding, Johansson said, obviously. Damage, Martinez said. Not sure yet, Johansson said. I have external camera 4 pointed along the nose. I don't see any problems with the hole near the VAL. Worry about that later, Lewis said. What's our relative velocity and distance to MAV? Johansson typed quickly. We'll get to within 22 meters, and we're at 12 meters per second. We actually got better than expected thrust. Watney, Lewis said. It worked. Beck's on his way. Score, Watney responded. Beck, Lewis said. You're up. 12 meters per second. Close enough, Beck replied. There's a break. I'm going to jump out, Beck said. Should get me another 2 or 3 meters per second. Understood, Vogel said, loosely gripping Beck's tether. Good luck, Dr. Beck. Placing his feet on the back wall, Beck coiled and leaped out of the airlock. Once free, he got his bearings. A quick look to his right showed him what he could not see from inside the airlock. I have visual, Beck said. I can see the MAV. The MAV barely resembled a spacecraft as Beck had come to know them. The once sleek lines were now a jagged mess of missing hull segments and empty anchor points where non-critical components used to be. Wow, Mark, what did you do to this thing? You should see what I did to the rover, Watney radioed back. Beck thrust on an intercept course. He had practiced this many times. The presumption in those practice sessions was that he'd be rescuing a crewmate whose tether had broken, but the principle was the same. Johansson, he said, got me on radar? Affirmative, she replied. Call my relative velocity to Mark every 2 seconds or so. Copy. 5.2 meters per second. Hey Beck, Watney said. The front's wide open. I'll get up there and be ready to grab at you. Negative, interrupted Lewis. No untethered movement. Stay strapped to your chair until you're latched to Beck. Copy, Watney said. 3.1 meters per second, Johansson reported. Going to coast for a bit, Beck said. Gotta catch up before I slow it down. He rotated himself in preparation for the next burn. 11 meters to target, Johansson said. Copy. 6 meters, Johansson said. And counter-thrusting, Beck said, firing the MMU thrusters again. The MAV loomed before him. Velocity, he asked. 1.1 meters per second, Johansson said. Good enough, he said, reaching for the ship. I'm drifting towards it. I think I can get my hands on some of the torn canvas. The tattered canvas beckoned as the only handhold on the otherwise smooth ship. Beck reached, extending as best as he could, and managed to grab hold. Contact, Beck said, strengthening his grip. He pulled his body forward and lashed out with his other hand to grab some more canvas. Firm contact. Dr. Beck, Vogel said. We have now passed closest approach point and you are now getting further away. You have 169 meters of tether left, enough for 14 seconds. Copy, Beck said. Putting his head to the opening, he looked inside the compartment to see Watney strapped to his chair. Visual on Watney, he reported. Visual on Beck, Watney reported. How you doing, man? Beck said, putting himself to his ship. I just, Watney said, give me a minute. You're the first person I've seen in 18 months. We don't have a minute, Beck said, kicking off the wall. We've got 11 seconds before we run out of tether. Beck's course took him to the chair, where he clumsily collided with Watney. The two gripped each other's arms to keep Beck from bouncing away. Contact with Watney, Beck said. 8 seconds, Dr. Beck, Vogel radioed. Copy, Beck said as he hastily latched the front of his seat to the front of Watney's with tether clips. Connected, he said. Watney released the straps from his chair. Restraints off. We're out of here, Beck said, kicking the chair off towards the opening. The two men floated across the MAV cabin to the opening. Beck reached out his arm and pushed off the edge as they passed through. We're out, Beck reported. 5 seconds, Vogel said. Return relative velocity to Hermes. 12 meters per second, Johansson said. Thrusting, Beck said, activating his MMU. The two accelerated towards Hermes for a few seconds. Then the MMU controls on Beck's heads-up display turned red. That's it for the fuel, Beck said. Velocity? 5 meters per second, Johansson replied. Stand by, Vogel said. Throughout the process, he had been feeding Tether out of the airlock. Now he gripped the ever-shrinking remainder of the rope with both hands. He didn't clamp down on it. That would pull him out of the airlock. He simply closed his hands over the tether to create friction. Hermes was now pulling Beck and Watney along with Vogel's use of the tether acting as a shock absorber. If Vogel used too much force, the shock would pull the tether free from Beck's suit clips. If he used too little, the tether would run out before they matched speed, then jerk to a hard stop at the end, which would also rip it out of Beck's suit clips. Vogel managed to find the balance. After a few seconds of tense gut feel physics, he felt the force on the tether abate. Velocity 0, Johansen reported excitedly. Rule him in, Vogel, Lewis said. Copy, Vogel said. Hand over hand, he slowly pulled his crewmates towards the airlock. After a few seconds, he stopped actively pulling and simply took in the line as they coasted towards him. They floated into the airlock, and Vogel grabbed them. Beck and Watney both reached for handholds on the wall as Vogel worked his way around them and closed the outer door. Aboard, Beck said. Airlock 2, outer door closed, Vogel said. Yes, Martinez yelled. Copy, Lewis said. And then there's a break. That's the last break. My throat is killing me. Lewis's voice echoed across the world. Houston, this is Hermes Actual. 6 crews safely aboard. The control room exploded with applause. Leaping from their seats, controllers cheered, hugged, and cried. The same scene played out all across the world, in parks, bars, sitting centers, living rooms, classrooms, and offices. The couple in Chicago clutched each other in sheer relief, then pulled the NASA representative in for a group hug. Mitch slowly pulled off his headset and turned to face the VIP room. Through the glass, he saw various well-suited men and women cheering wildly. He looked at Venkat and let out a heavy sigh of relief. Venkat put his head in his hands and whispered, "Thank the gods." Teddy pulled a blue folder from his briefcase and stood. "Annie will be wanting me in the press room." "Guess you don't need a red folder today," Venkat said. "Honestly, I didn't make one." As he walked out, he added, "Good work, Venk. Now get them home." Log entry, Mission Day 687. That 687 caught me off guard for a minute. On Hermes, we track time by mission days. It may be Sol 549 down on Mars, but it's Mission Day 687 up here. And you know what? It doesn't matter what time on Mars it is. And it doesn't matter what time it is on Mars, because I'm not there. I'm really not on Mars anymore. I can tell because there's no gravity, and there are other humans around. I'm still adjusting. If this were a movie, everyone would have been in the airlock, and there would have been high fives all around, but it didn't pan out that way. I broke 2 ribs during the MAV ascent. They were sore the whole time, but they really started screaming when Vogel pulled us into the airlock by the tether, and I didn't want to distract the people who were saving my life, so I muted my mic and screamed like a little girl. It's true, you know. In space, no one can hear you scream like a little girl. Once they got me into airlock 2, they opened the inner door and I was finally aboard again. The Hermes was still in back row, so we didn't have to cycle the airlock. Beck told me to go limp and pushed me down the corridor towards his quarters, which served as the ship's sick bay when needed. Vogel went the other direction and closed the outer VAL door. Once Beck and I got to his quarters, we waited for the ship to repressurize. Hermes had enough spare air to refill the ship 2 more times if needed. It would be a pretty crappy long-range ship that couldn't recover from a decompression. After Johansen gave us the all-clear, Dr. Bossy Beck made me wait while he first took off his suit and took off mine. After he pulled my helmet off, he looked shocked. I thought maybe I had a major head wound or something, but it turns out it was the smell. It's been a while since I washed anything. After that, it was x-rays and chest bandages while the rest of the crew checked the ship for damage. Then came the painful high fives, followed by people staying as far away from my stench as possible. We had a few minutes of reunion before Beck shuttled everyone out, gave me painkillers, and told me to shower as soon as I could move my arms. So now I'm waiting for the drugs to kick in. I think about the sheer number of people who pulled together just to save my sorry ass, and I can barely comprehend it. My crewmates sacrificed the years of their lives to come back to me. Countless people at NASA worked day and night to invent rover and nav modifications. All of JPL busted their butts to make a probe that was destroyed on launch. Then, instead of giving up, they made another probe to resupply Hermes. The China National Space Administration abandoned a project they worked on for years just to provide a booster. The cost for my survival must have been hundreds of millions of dollars, all to save one dorky botanist. Why bother? Well, okay, I know the answer to that. Part of it might have been what I represent. Progress, science, and the interplanetary future we've dreamed of for centuries. But really, they did it because every human being has a basic instinct to help each other out. It might not seem that way sometimes, but it's true. If a hiker gets lost in the mountains, people will coordinate a search. If a train crashes, people will line up to give blood. If an earthquake levels a city, people all over the world will send emergency supplies. This is so fundamentally human that it's found in every culture without exception. Yes, there are jerks who just don't care, but they're massively outnumbered by the people who do. Because of that, I had billions of people on my side. Pretty cool, eh? Anyways, my ribs hurt like hell, my vision is still blurry from acceleration sickness, and I'm really hungry. It'll be another 211 days before I'm back on Earth, and apparently I smell like a skunk took a dump on some sweat socks. This is the happiest day of my life. Okay, that's it. That's it for the book. That's actually it. Fucking hell, okay. Alright. I regret standing up now. Oh god, I just burped water. Alright, that's enough from The Martian. We finished it, finally. Putting this back on the shelves. Right. Future plans, I'll probably do the Emperor of all Maladies next. And then the... what is it? I already did Quantum. Oh, the How We Got to Know. Yeah, okay. Yeah.